One day as I went to the mall, I struggled to find a parking spot. When I finally found a spot that is convenient considering my injury, a Karen pretends she's blind to steal my parking spot, gets mad when caught. Here's how it all went down. It was one of those Saturdays where everything seemed to be going just right. The sun was shining, my favorite song was playing on the radio, and I had a list of errands to run, starting with a quick trip to the mall. I remember thinking how the day had a certain buzz to it, probably because of some sale or event at the mall. As I approached, I noticed cars circling the parking lot like sharks, a clear sign that finding a spot was going to be a challenge. My recent ankle injury wasn't helping matters. I had twisted it during a hiking trip, and while it wasn't severe, it was annoying enough to make me wish for a parking spot close to the entrance. I took a deep breath, turned up the volume on my radio, and prepared myself for the parking lot dance. The sun was scorching, making the asphalt shimmer with heat. I'd been driving around the parking lot, my car's AC working overtime, and my patience wearing thin. Just when I was about to give up and park in the farthest corner, I spotted a glimmer of hope. A family was loading their shopping bags into their car, which was parked in a handicapped spot. I quickly turned on my signal, showing that I wanted that spot. The spot was near the entrance, shaded by a tree, and would save my aching ankle a lot of trouble. But just as I was about to pull in, out of nowhere, a fancy black sedan swooped in and stole the spot right in front of me. I couldn't believe my eyes. Regaining my composure, I rolled down my window, trying to sound more curious than confrontational. "Hey, I was actually waiting for that spot. Didn't you see my signal?" The car's tinted window rolled down to reveal Karen, who looked like she had just stepped out of a high-end fashion magazine. Her sharp bob haircut perfectly framed her face, and her oversized sunglasses seemed to challenge anyone who dared to oppose her. To my shock, she stepped out holding a white cane, feigning blindness. "Oh, my apologies," she said with a smirk. "I didn't see you there." I was taken aback, trying to process the audacity. "Wait a minute, you drove here, and pretty swiftly, might I add. How can you claim to be blind?" She leaned in, tapping her cane with an exaggerated flair. "Darling, it's the 21st century. Anything's possible." She winked, leaving me even more baffled. Shaking my head in disbelief, I parked a good distance away. The walk to the mall was longer than I would have liked, especially with my aching ankle. As I limped along, I couldn't help but replay the parking incident in my mind, trying to make sense of it. Distracted by my thoughts, I almost missed it. There she was, right in front of one of those high-end boutiques, holding up a pair of designer sunglasses to the light, tilting them this way and that, and discussing their hues with the salesperson. It was almost comical, watching her act as if she had perfect vision. I couldn't resist. "Excuse me?" I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "I thought you were blind." Karen looked up, clearly not expecting to see me. For a split second, I saw genuine panic flash across her eyes before she quickly masked it with a look of defiance. "I have selective vision," she said, attempting to sound nonchalant. I raised an eyebrow. "Sounds more like selective honesty to me." By now, our little exchange had caught the attention of a few nearby shoppers. They whispered among themselves, clearly intrigued by the unfolding drama. Karen shot me a venomous look, her face turning a fiery shade of red. "Who do you think you are? Mind your own business," she hissed, her voice dripping with indignation. The tension between us was palpable, drawing the attention of more than just curious shoppers. A mall security guard, noticing the gathering crowd and our escalating voices, decided to intervene. "What seems to be the issue here?" he inquired, trying to assess the situation. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. "Well, sir," I began, "I was waiting for a handicapped parking spot when this lady," I gestured towards her, "swooped in and took it. When I confronted her, she pretended to be blind." Karen interrupted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I told you, I have selective vision," I continued, frustration evident in my voice. "Then I saw her here, in the mall, checking out sunglasses and discussing their colors. When I asked her about it, she gave me some nonsense about selective vision." A man from the crowd chimed in, "I saw the whole parking thing. She definitely saw you waiting and took the spot anyway," another woman added. "And I was in the boutique with her. She was definitely not acting blind in there." The security guard raised an eyebrow, looking between the two of us, waiting for her to defend herself. Karen, trying to maintain some semblance of dignity, interjected, "I was merely trying to highlight how people can be so judgmental. Everyone's always in such a rush to assume the worst." The security guard, clearly unimpressed by her explanation, responded firmly, "Regardless of your intentions, ma'am, you can't misuse a handicapped parking spot. It's not only inconsiderate, but also against mall regulations." Karen shot back, "I was just trying to prove a point. Why is everyone making such a big deal out of this?" The guard, maintaining his composure, replied, "The rules are clear. You need to move your car immediately. If you don't comply, I'll have to call for it to be towed." With a huff and a roll of her eyes, Karen stormed off, presumably to move her car. I watched her go, a mix of disbelief and amusement swirling inside me. The security guard gave me a sympathetic smile, and I expressed my gratitude for his timely intervention. "It's all part of the job," he said with a shrug. The kind strangers who had taken a moment to back up my story also received my heartfelt thanks. Their simple act of support had made a world of difference. As I finally began my shopping trip, I overheard a snippet of conversation between two teenagers. "Did you see that? Some people will go to insane lengths just for a parking spot," one said, laughing. I smiled to myself, reflecting on the unexpected turn my day had taken. While it had been a roller coaster of emotions, it had also served as a reminder that, even in the face of deceit and entitlement, there are always those who will stand up for what's right. It's fascinating to see how everyday situations, like finding a parking spot, can escalate into such dramatic confrontations. It's a reminder that in our daily lives, we often encounter unexpected challenges and the diverse personalities of those around us. I never thought that planning a wedding would bring so much chaos and uncertainty into my life. As the pressure mounted and expectations grew, I found myself questioning everything: our love, our future, and even my own identity. Little did I know that this journey would lead me down a path filled with doubts, secrets, and unexpected revelations. Here's how it all went down. The city's hum was always in the background, a comforting reminder that life was still moving. I sat on our balcony, surrounded by the soft glow of the evening lights, lost in memories of Mark and me. Our story began in the most ordinary way: a spilled coffee at a local cafe. I can still picture the embarrassment on his face, and the laughter that followed. That little accident sparked a conversation, which turned into dinner, and before we knew it, 8 years had passed. Our relationship is like a well-worn book, filled with notes in the margins, pages folded to mark our favorite moments, and a few tears from the challenges we've faced. We've grown together, learning each other's quirks and habits. From late-night ice cream runs to passionate debates about movies, our love is built on shared experiences and mutual respect. The idea of getting married had been on our minds for a while. It wasn't a sudden decision, but rather a gradual realization that we wanted to celebrate our love with our loved ones. However, as the wedding day approached, we started feeling the weight of expectations and traditions weighing us down. One evening, as I was lost in a world of wedding Pinterest boards, Mark walked in with a strange look on his face. "You remember the chat I had with my sister last week?" he began, scratching the back of his neck. I nodded, recalling their animated conversation. "Yeah, she seemed pretty excited about something." Mark hesitated. "She's been shopping for bridesmaid dresses. She's thrilled about being part of our big day." I blinked in surprise. "Bridesmaid? I never mentioned anything about having bridesmaids. Especially not to her." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know, Liv. She just assumed. And now she's told a few family members, and they're all buzzing about it." I felt a knot of anxiety. "Mark, we agreed on keeping things simple. No bridal party, no fuss. Just us and our loved ones." Mark looked torn. "I know, but seeing her so excited, I didn't have the heart to correct her. And now it's spiraled out of control." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "So what do we do now? Do we go along with it to keep everyone happy?" Mark looked frustrated. "I don't know, Liv. Everyone's expecting this grand event. My buddies are already talking about bachelor parties, and my family's making plans. It's becoming a spectacle." I felt a pang of resentment. "This was supposed to be about us, Mark, not a show for everyone else." He nodded. "I get it, but with all this pressure, maybe we should just elope. Skip the drama, the expectations. Just us, like we wanted." The idea was tempting, but doubts crept in. "Is that what you want, or are you suggesting it because it's the easy way out?" Mark hesitated. "I love you, Liv. I want to marry you, but I also don't want to get lost in this wedding chaos. Maybe eloping is our answer." The following days were a whirlwind of emotions. Doubts, fears, and questions filled our conversations. Were we making the right decision? Were we letting external pressures dictate our choices? One evening, Mark dropped a bombshell. "Liv, I've been thinking. Maybe we need to take a step back, reevaluate everything, not just the wedding, but us." I felt like the ground had been pulled from under me. "Are you having second thoughts about us?" Mark looked pained. "Not about us, but about the path we're on. I don't want to lose us in this wedding madness." The days that followed felt like a blur. Every morning, I woke up with a heavy heart, weighed down by our unresolved issues. My usual routine was disrupted. Instead of going for my morning jogs and coffee runs, I found myself aimlessly wandering the streets, lost in my thoughts. I reached out to friends, hoping to find solace in shared experiences. But the truth was, I didn't have many friends to turn to. Being diagnosed with high-functioning autism as a child meant that I often missed social cues that others took for granted. Throughout my life, I struggled to form lasting friendships. People would come and go, leaving me feeling more isolated. College was a lonely time. I lived alone and never joined any sororities or clubs. I had lost touch with almost everyone from high school, and my colleagues, who were mostly older, were polite but distant. My solace came from volunteering at the local dog shelter, spending time at the gym, and working on my online master's program in the evenings. Mark knew all of this. He understood how self-conscious and sad I felt about not having close friends, so I couldn't understand why he was making our wedding, a day that was supposed to be about us, into such a big issue regarding social expectations. Over cups of coffee and late-night phone calls, I spoke to the few friends I had. From college buddies to childhood friends, everyone had a story to share, a piece of advice to give. The more I spoke to people, the more confused I became. It was like trying to find my way through a maze with 100 different paths, each leading to a different outcome. At night, I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, lost in thoughts of Mark and our time together. The good times, the challenges, and the dreams we shared. The upcoming wedding, which was supposed to be a celebration of our love, now felt burdensome. I turned to journaling, hoping to find clarity in my written words. The pages were filled with questions, fears, and hopes. The uncertainty of our future, the pressure of the wedding, and the complexity of our relationship were recurring themes in my entries. The toll on my emotions became evident as the days and nights blurred together. I was exhausted, both physically and mentally. The once clear vision of our wedding day, filled with happiness and laughter, now seemed clouded with doubt and worry. A wedding should be an intimate celebration of love between two people, a moment for them to cherish and create beautiful memories together. It shouldn't be about impressing others or conforming to societal expectations. When the focus shifts from the couple to the opinions and demands of others, it can easily become overwhelming and lose its true meaning. It's important to stay true to yourselves and prioritize what truly matters, your love and commitment to each other. Remember, it's your special day, and it should reflect your unique journey and the joy you share. I thought we were finally free from his manipulative grasp, but when Emma's phone buzzed with a message from her entitled ex, begging to move in, I knew trouble was brewing. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a twisted game that would push Emma to her limits. Here's how it all went down. Growing up, Emma and I were two peas in a pod. From building sandcastles to sharing secrets under the stars, our bond was unbreakable. Emma, with her gentle spirit, always saw the good in everyone, sometimes to a fault. She was naive, often letting people walk all over her, and no matter how many times I tried to warn her, she'd just smile and say, "People deserve second chances." Enter Kyle. The two dated for a while, and from the outside it seemed like a fairy tale romance. But those of us close to Emma saw the cracks. Kyle was manipulative, always playing the victim, and Emma, with her soft heart, always fell for his sob stories. When they finally broke up, I breathed a sigh of relief. But as fate would have it, that wasn't the end. One evening, as we were curled up on Emma's couch, sipping wine and reminiscing about our college days, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her face fell. "It's Kyle," she murmured. I tensed. "What does he want?" She hesitated. "He says he's in trouble, needs a place to stay." I frowned. "And he reached out to you? After everything he put you through?" Emma bit her lip. "He says he's changed, that he's sorry for everything." I rolled my eyes. "Emma, you can't seriously be considering this." She looked down. I feel bad for him. What if he's telling the truth?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my frustration in check. "Emma, he's using you. Again." She looked up, tears in her eyes. "I just want to believe that people can change." I sighed, pulling her into a hug. "I know you do, but you need to protect yourself." The next day, as I was heading to work, I got a call from Emma. "He's here," she said, her voice shaky. My heart sank. "Kyle?" She nodded. "He showed up this morning, bags in hand, said he had nowhere else to go." I clenched my fists. "Emma, you can't let him stay." She hesitated. I feel so guilty. He looked so lost." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. "Emma, he's manipulating you. You need to see that." She was silent for a moment. "I know, but I can't just turn him away." I sighed. "Okay, but promise me you'll be careful." She nodded. "I promise." Over the next few weeks, I watched as Kyle wormed his way back into Emma's life. He'd post pictures of them on social media, gushing about how grateful he was for her support. He'd shower her with gifts and compliments, making her feel special. And every time I tried to warn her, she'd brush me off, saying I was being paranoid. One evening, as I was leaving work, I got a frantic call from Emma. "He's gone," she sobbed. I frowned. "Kyle?" She nodded. "He took everything, my jewelry, my savings, everything." My heart broke for her. "Emma, I'm so sorry," she sniffled. "I should have listened to you. I was so stupid." I sighed. "It's not your fault. He took advantage of your kindness." She was silent for a moment. I can't believe I fell for it. Again." I pulled into her driveway and rushed inside, pulling her into a tight hug. "It's going to be okay," I whispered. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. How do I move on from this?" I took a deep breath. "One day at a time, and with the help of your friends." She smiled weakly. "Thank you for everything." I squeezed her hand. Always. As the days turned into weeks, Emma slowly began to pick up the pieces of her life. She went to therapy, leaned on her friends for support, and slowly began to rebuild her trust in people. And through it all, I was by her side, reminding her of her worth and helping her see the good in the world. A few weeks after the incident, I received a call from Emma, her voice a mix of relief and disbelief. "They caught him," she said. "Who? Kyle?" I asked, my heart racing. "Yes, the police arrested him earlier today. Apparently, he'd been involved in a series of scams and thefts around the city. They found a stash of stolen items in his apartment, including my jewelry." I let out a sigh of relief. Finally, some justice. Emma paused. "I can't believe it took this long, but I'm just glad he's off the streets." We talked for a while longer, discussing the details of the arrest and the charges Kyle was facing. It turned out that several of his other victims had come forward, and the evidence against him was overwhelming. A few months later, Kyle was convicted and sentenced to several years in prison. Emma attended the trial, and while it was difficult for her to face him again, she said it brought her a sense of closure. As for Emma, she continued to rebuild her life, leaning on her friends and therapy for support. And while the scars of Kyle's betrayal would always be there, she was determined to move forward and not let him define her. I was proud of Emma for her strength and resilience. I watched her transform from a naive, trusting girl into a strong, confident woman. She learned to set boundaries, to trust her instincts, and to stand up for herself. And while the scars of Kyle's betrayal would always be there, they no longer defined her. Always remember to not let people take advantage of you. It's important to always put your guard up and be careful whom you trust. Trust is a precious thing that should be earned, and while it's important to believe in the goodness of people, it's equally crucial to protect yourself from those who may try to exploit your kindness. I never imagined that my decision to leave my parents because of my brother would lead me down a path of darkness and turmoil. The constant teasing, outbursts, and physical attacks pushed me to the edge until I finally made the bold choice to start fresh in another state. Little did I know, the consequences of my escape would haunt me in ways I never expected. Here's how it all went down. I am a 29-year-old woman with a hectic life due to my family. On the surface, everything seemed great. I had recently received a fantastic promotion, made some wonderful friends, and was excited about moving to another state with my partner. Inside our once blue, now weathered two-story home, things weren't exactly great. My relationship with my older brother Jake had gone downhill. We used to be close, but now he just felt like a dark cloud hanging over me. Dealing with his teasing and outbursts became a daily struggle. My parents? They were all about work and trying to look good. Even when I helped out financially after my promotion, they didn't seem too thrilled. In fact, they were sometimes pretty critical about it. Anime was my escape. Its vibrant worlds and captivating stories were my solace, but Jake, true to form, found ways to disrupt even that. See, my brother, the guy who used to have my back and was my go-to for secrets and all that jazz, had become a total storm. His temper, which was always a little wild, had now gone completely off the rails. It didn't matter if it was someone accidentally cutting him off in line or just a teensy-weensy disagreement at home. His reactions were like fireworks, loud, explosive, and pretty darn scary. One evening, while I was totally lost in this epic imaginary battle scene, I heard that all-too-familiar thudding against the wall. I couldn't take it anymore, so I flung open my door and shouted, "Jake, what the hell?" But instead of a comeback, Jake went full-on crazy and attacked me like a wild animal. His fingers dug into my skin like talons, and his fists landed blow after blow. He spat at me, filled with venom, saying, "You think you're so damn special with your stupid fantasies?" In that moment, fueled by pure adrenaline, I managed to push him away and screamed, "Just get off me! Can't you leave me alone for once?" My voice echoed down the hallway, drawing an audience. Our dad, looking more annoyed than concerned, appeared at the end of the corridor and demanded to know what all the noise was about. Before I could even utter a word, Jake played the victim and said, "Dad, I was just walking by when they started yelling at me for no reason." I was completely flabbergasted. I pointed to the scratches and bruises forming on my arms and protested, "Are you serious? He attacked me!" But my father's stern gaze was fixed on me as he said, "Always causing trouble, aren't you? Can't you just grow up?" Jake smirked from behind him, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "Yeah, grow up," he echoed mockingly. Their combined disdain weighed heavily on me, and I felt trapped, like my supposed sanctuary had turned into a prison. A week later, I was finally watching my favorite anime that I'd been dying to see. Scene after scene, I was totally engrossed in the story, getting all emotional and stuff. But just when things were getting intense, the front door creaked open, and I could hear my parents coming in with their bags. My parents, totally oblivious to my anime adventure, carried on with their usual chores, and my brother, always looking for an opportunity to annoy me, seized the chance. He leaned in, his voice dripping with sarcasm, just low enough to blend in with the background noise, but loud enough for me to catch every word. "Still glued to those silly cartoons, huh?" he sneered. I paused the episode, hoping to resume once they were gone, but my brother, sensing my frustration, dragged out his conversation with our parents on purpose. It felt like an eternity before they finally left the room. Anxious to get back to my anime, I hit play, only to be interrupted yet again. My brother, with this smug look on his face, goes on this rant like, "Why do you waste your time with this crap? He's mocking me, you know? And those awesome anime tunes that I was so psyched to hear? Well, they were totally ruined by his snide remarks. I couldn't take it anymore, so I snapped and shouted, 'Enough! Just leave me the hell alone!' But instead of having my back, my mom starts scolding me, saying I'm throwing tantrums over dumb stuff. I felt completely defeated, so I just retreated to my room, tears streaming down my face. It felt like the whole world was crashing down on me. The days all started blurring together, and each one felt tougher than the last. My brother's anger was like an endless storm, and I could never predict when it would hit. One morning, I'm just trying to grab my toothbrush, and he barges right past me, spewing venom with every word. He's like, "Just shut up and move." Before I can even react, I feel the sharp pain of his kicks and punches. I bolted out of there, desperate to get away from all the chaos. That evening, after a long, exhausting day at work, all I wanted was some peace and quiet. But peace felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. As I was heading towards the bathroom, my brother pulled off this sneaky move, dropping his water bottle to create a distraction before barging in. I got pushed aside, almost falling into the bathtub, and when I tried to stand up for myself, he didn't hold back, hitting me where it hurt the most with a mean remark about my weight. He knew exactly how to get under my skin. But it wasn't just me that my brother had a problem with. He seemed to hate anyone who brought a little happiness into my life, especially my partner. So when he found out about a party my partner was planning, he came up with this clever plan. He suddenly acted sick, fully aware of my partner's health concerns, and played on our parents' worries. They practically kept me from going to the party, and my brother, with that smug grin on his face, seemed to enjoy seeing me disappointed. The very next day, he continued with his torment. He just couldn't resist rubbing it in that I had missed the party, and he didn't stop there. He made everything, even simple tasks like loading a plate into the dishwasher, feel like a full-on battle. His teasing knew no limits, from making fun of my love for Star Wars to belittling my contributions to the household finances. It was like he had an endless supply of ways to push my buttons. So one day, I finally had enough and decided to leave that suffocating house behind. My partner and I made the bold choice to start fresh in another state, away from all the drama and toxicity at my family home. It was a mix of sadness and relief as we said our goodbyes, with my parents giving me half-hearted blessings and my brother not even pretending to be happy for me. As we settled into our new life together, it definitely had its challenges, but the freedom and peace we found were totally worth it. Our little apartment became our safe haven, filled with love, understanding, and dreams of a brighter future. Unfortunately, my family's disapproval didn't magically disappear, especially from my brother. He resented the fact that I had gained independence and found happiness, and that bitterness tainted every interaction we had. Phone calls became strained, visits were awkward and tense, and holidays turned into uncomfortable affairs. It was clear that they couldn't accept the choices I had made. But you know what? Over time, I realized that I could find strength in the love and support of my partner and friends who had become my new family. Our home became a place of laughter, shared dreams, and endless understanding. And that, above everything else, confirmed to me that I had made the right decision. Though the road had been tough and the scars of my past still lingered, I was finally free to chase my own happiness, to live my life on my terms. The walls of my new home weren't closing in. Instead, they opened up to endless possibilities, and I was ready to embrace every one of them. It's tough when toxic people are family, but sometimes we just gotta prioritize our own well-being. Surrounding ourselves with positive vibes and supportive relationships is key for our happiness and growth. So, sending love and strength to anyone out there dealing with a similar situation. You got this. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.